Hi, and welcome to Journey Forward with Jory Rose, where you will gain insights, tools, and inspiration to get unstuck and live your best life. Jory is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a passion for helping people cultivate awareness and authenticity so they can show up fully in all aspects of their life. And now, here's Jory.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Journey Forward with Jory Rose. This is an episode for you if you are someone who feels frustrated, overwhelmed, unhappy, irritated of being in the same repeating patterns that have been showing up for years, maybe even for a lifetime. This is an episode for you if you are someone who has tried to create change and just haven't been able to get there. So I'm happy that you're tuning in now because I am going to be walking you through some common problems, symptoms of those problems, but most importantly, solutions that I see as foundational, not only to creating change, but to getting what you really, really want, which I think is to be happier, to be able to have greater agency in your choices, in your decisions, in conscious living, to be able to journey forward to whatever is going to bring you more peace, joy, alignment, authenticity. Because here's what I know for sure. Life is hard. We get stuck. Our mindset keeps us stuck. We try things a little bit. It's hard, so we don't really know how to adjust to make it a little bit more attainable or relatable, or how to integrate small change into our life. And therefore, we end up feeling resigned and say, oh, this just must not be for me. Others have it easier. Others can do it better for me. I'm just going to stay over here and be stuck and be underwhelmed and be disconnected from what I really want to get out of my one and only precious life. So maybe that's showing up for you in small ways, and maybe that's showing up for you in significant ways. But I can tell you, as a marriage and family therapist and as a life coach, I see these patterns consistently. Here's another thing I know for certain. We're not looking to create huge shifts in our life. If we set ourselves up for thinking we're going to take on big changes, we're likely setting ourselves up for failure in those intentions. Rather, I invite you to consider the 1% shift, not 90-degree shift, not a 180-degree shift, but a 1% shift. Because even a 1% shift is going to grow over time. 1% is attainable. 1% is possible. So in this episode, I am going to spell out for you what I consistently see in those who I work with, and also share some of my own personal examples and experiences of where I used to really get in my own way. But most importantly, I'm going to offer for you some solutions and invite you into considering new ways to show up with your challenges, with whatever curveballs life is throwing at you. Because as I know for certainty that life is hard, I also have complete certainty it doesn't have to be so hard. And the thing that often gets in our own way is ourselves and our fixed mindset and looking through a negative lens that is easily rooted in our negativity bias. So all those things aren't your fault, but it is your responsibility if you want to be happier, have more fulfilling and satisfying relationships, to feel more resilient to life's curveballs and your challenges, and to be able to reframe a challenge into an opportunity, and ultimately to feel aligned and authentic in your own self. Because I truly believe that when you are in alignment, mind, body, soul, when you are authentic, operating from a sense of wholeness, a sense of self-awareness, from a place of self-compassion, those are the conditions that are present that help you lead an abundant life. And abundance is feeling fulfilled and satisfied, looking through life with a positive lens, having a positive mindset, while still being realistic around the curveballs, the challenges, but knowing how to get out of the spiral when you want and when you need. So I'm going to start off by describing what I see a lot of people come to me with what their challenges are. There are a lot of frustrations of feeling drained from our day-to-day life, drained from the to-do list, drained from our relationships, drained on the state of the world. One of the key things, and I especially see this for women and for mothers, is the drain that we feel when we take in and take on the emotions of others. Now, as a mom, it feels like this is part of our job, is to be there for everybody, to be there to support those that we love, to nurture and care for, which also means to help problem solve when other people are going through challenges. But the challenge for us comes when we are enmeshed with other people's problems, emotions, or challenges, and we don't have healthy boundaries to differentiate what does it look like to support those we care about versus what does it look like to not lose ourselves in the challenges of others. Now, the ability to be able to do that largely comes from your own self-awareness of recognizing when you start to feel sucked into another person's emotional spiral. Well, self-awareness is one of those things that many people think that they have, but when it comes down to it, in the moment aren't so good at actually noticing and paying attention to when we start to become more enmeshed or begin to lose ourselves in our relationships. Which again is a challenge when we think that our role is to be nurturing and caretaking. But if we're nurturing and caretaking in a way that is depleting us of our own energy, our own life force, our own momentum to take care of ourselves, then it becomes a problem. Okay, so in addition to feeling drained in our relationships, another common challenge I see is people feeling frustrated that they're not getting any change that they want in their life. They start off with really good intentions, they have really high hopes, they're excited, they're motivated, and then their patterns come back into play. Now, when we expect a lot of change and not having it come allows us to feel frustrated, it's not because we are not supposed to embody the changes that we're wanting. We're just perhaps going about it in the wrong way. Maybe taking on too much at once, maybe not setting ourselves up for success, maybe not even honoring our successes along the way to even notice the changes that are showing up, which can really get in our way of gaining that momentum to continue to move forward. Another challenge I see many people getting stuck is being in an old narrative or in a narrative that is really not serving their current intentions, current goals, current desires of how they want to show up in their life. One of the narratives I see, especially for moms, is the belief of what, quote, a good mom does. And when we have a narrative that is rooted in perhaps what we saw our mothers do, which different generation, different intentions for how moms showed up, is not serving our present moment relationship. Maybe we're stuck in narratives around our own beliefs, around our capability, around the things that we think we are supposed to be feeling in our life. Maybe if we come from a family in which there was a lot of lack and a lot of challenge, maybe we have a belief of this is just who I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be someone who feels abundance or joy or have healthy relationships. So oftentimes we want to create change. We have a desire for more fulfilling and satisfying relationships, for a more abundant lifestyle, for feeling more in alignment and feeling whole and complete in our own sense of self. But those narratives can really stand in our way, and we believe them as our truth. It's a good reminder that thoughts are simply thoughts. Thoughts are not our truth. Even old narratives that feel really ingrained are possible to change with an awareness that, oh, That narrative is just a thought rooted in some old belief system that I did not consciously subscribe to. And yet I'm continuing to allow it to dictate and to get in the way of my present moment joy, connection, alignment, fulfillment. More challenges that I see people getting stuck in is comparison mind, constantly comparing themselves to others. This is an interesting one because one of the things that we can do when we see others having what we want, whether it's something tangible like a new pair of jeans or even a vacation or a relationship, because of our negativity bias, we can easily get stuck in a mindset of others have that, they must be more deserving or quote better. I must not be able to achieve that because I don't have that yet. And therefore I'm going to stay stuck and spin in a negative spiral of why I can't achieve what someone else has. Or just as an aside, before we come into more solutions, but on a note on this comparison mind, there is a possibility of seeing what others have that you want as a reminder that what you want is possible. I just heard this recently in doing some manifestation and law of attraction work, that because of our negativity bias, because of our comparison mind, we tend to see things when we get stuck in comparison as a negative of what we're not supposed to have. However, if you want to flip that narrative, it could be a reminder that the universe is showing you a possibility, showing you that what you want is right around the corner, because the people in your life, those who you're coming in contact with or seeing across social media, might just simply be the universe's way of showing you you're capable of having that too. At the root of being able to make that switch, however, is an ability to have the awareness of where your mind is going and the ability to shift it somewhere intentional on purpose. We'll get back to that more in a minute. Another place that I see people continuing to get stuck in is simply being on autopilot in their life, going through the motions of their life and their day, not connected to knowing why they're doing what they're doing, not being conscious in their choices and their decision making, not being really present in their relationships. As a result of this unconscious living, oftentimes what happens is there are moments or perhaps even a bigger wake up one day in which you ask yourself, how did I get here? I don't remember making the conscious choices to get to where I am. Now, if you've been listening to me and my work, you've been knowing for some time that this was a big part of my own story. I kept doing what was next, what was next, what was next. And the thing is, each next step felt like a logical progression. So it made perfect sense to me in a rational and logical way why I stepped towards what was next, what was next, what was next. However, I never paused to really check in with myself to see if what was next was actually in alignment with my desires, if it was actually in alignment with any growth that I had made, to see if what was next was actually in alignment with who I was at this moment in time, not some old version of myself, to see if what was next was actually what I wanted, not just now, but to put me on the path for my future self. So autopilot living, while very comfortable, can also keep us very, very disconnected. And then we wonder why we're unhappy. We wonder why we're unfulfilled in our relationships. We wonder why we're frustrated. We wonder why we keep repeating the same pattern over and over again, and there's been no shift and no change. So a lot of these, quote, symptoms, I'm going to call them, are what I see and what people come to me for when they want to work with me. These are the descriptions of the day-to-day things. And if you notice, on one level, these aren't really, quote, like big deals. You know, we're not talking major traumas. And that's not to say that I don't work with people who have significant trauma in their life, but these are more of the lowercase t traumas, the smaller slights that accumulate over time to result in a bigger frustration, Each little one on its own might not be so bad, but they're like little paper cuts. And an accumulation of all these lowercase t traumas, these small little paper cuts, result in the brain to have the same level of pain as a capital T trauma. We know that research in neuroscience, that we can have this accumulation of pain and hurt and lowercase t traumas that feel as big as a capital T trauma. So if you sometimes think, oh, well, this is just my life, this is just the way it is, it's not so bad, this is just how it's supposed to be, I want to remind you, no matter how small of a frustration or irritation or disconnection or unfulfillment that you might be experiencing, it's enough for you to have self-compassion, to create greater self-awareness around where you are and where you want to be. So if those are some of the symptoms of what's going on in your life, what are some of the solutions? Well, one of the things that I love to do in my work is to help people reframe their challenges and consider, what is another lens I can look through? Because we tend to get very habitual in how we see things. It's literally like putting a pair of glasses on that have a dark lens, and everything you see is through a view of that dark lens. When you remember your conscious choice, that you have an ability to shift the lens through which you see, it could literally be like putting on a lens with more clear ability to see what's in front of you. When you shift your lens, you shift your own reality. So reframing your challenges is an opportunity to ask yourself, what's another way I can look at this? What's another way I can respond right now? What's another way outside of the current way I've been doing it that can help me get on that 1% shift, that can put me on a different trajectory as I journey forward in a direction in alignment with my desires, who I want to be. Reframing challenges is also a deep practice in self-compassion, because oftentimes when we're stuck in challenges, we might be in a conflict with another person. Any conflict that we are experiencing is a highlight of our values. Remember, any challenge we're experiencing is simply a violation of a value of ours. So when we can look at it through the lens of what value is being violated, or what values is this other person operating from that is causing them to be showing up in a particular way, it might help you pause on reactivity when you look at it through a lens of values, which will help you have more compassion for another person, more self-compassion for yourself, as you see it as, oh, let me turn the dial down on my own reactivity, as I am able to look at it from a different way without being self-righteous, reactive, defensive. Reframing your challenges is a game changer for feeling more present, more calm, more joyful, more connected in your relationships, more connected to yourself. Another solution out of getting out of some of those repeating patterns and dynamics is to increase your awareness of your own agency. I think having agency is something that is our birthright that we don't always know how to enact. Gaining greater agency is the result of greater presence, greater self-awareness, knowing your desires, knowing your worth, knowing your values. When you know your desire, your worth, your values, when you're in greater alignment, you have greater confidence and greater ability to take action for the right reasons. And I say the right reasons because I'm referring to the reasons that are in alignment with your needs. We feel depleted, drained, unfulfilled, unsatisfied when we take action based on other people's needs, based on enmeshment, based on fear, anxiety, based on a negative lens or view or mindset. But having agency is a result of greater self-awareness, greater alignment, knowing our values, our desires, our worth, and acting from that place. Easier said than done for sure, and it's a possibility. Another solution to some of these patterns is when you can gain greater presence. This is the antidote to being on autopilot. Think about how you drive to places that you go to often. My guess is that you get in the car, you don't even think about what you need to do to get to where you need to go. It is so ingrained, you could literally do it with your eyes closed. Having greater presence is being conscious of that drive. As I gave the example a little bit earlier of when I realized that I just did what was next, what was next, what was next. It was like I was simply in the passenger seat of my own life. And my being on autopilot drove my actions, drove my next steps. Being more present is like literally getting into the driver's seat of your own life. When you are in the driver's seat of your own life and you are consciously knowing why you're doing what you're doing, you tend to make choices, you tend to show up in a way that feels better. Even if temporarily it's harder, because as you shift into new patterns, people around you might not like the shifts that you're making because it creates an imbalance of a well-ingrained system or dynamic. So there might be some temporary challenges as you regain new equilibrium. However, when we are constantly taken out of our own alignment in a favor to meet other people's needs ahead of our own, we are going to stay unhappy, unfulfilled, and unsatisfied. Even if you are temporarily dealing with an imbalance in your relationships, for when you start showing up in a new way, your greater self-awareness of this dynamic and of your ability to not get sucked into someone else's lane to rescue them out of their discomfort for your growth, that is a game changer. This requires you building a muscle, and the muscle that is necessary to build is your self-awareness of your needs, your worth, and your desires. This can feel selfish. Others might tell you this is selfish. I hate the word selfish because it implies that taking care of yourself is a disservice to you and to those you love. When in fact, if you are in a habit of abandoning your own self, abandoning your needs, desires, and worth in favor of meeting somebody else's, and you as a result feel frustrated, resentful, disconnected, and the other person is feeling a little bit better because you nurtured their needs, but you've abandoned yourself in the process, I can guarantee you it's not going to work for very long. That is a very, very, very short-term solution to what is going to build to a much bigger problem in your relationship. So having more presence, gaining more agency, for you to be able to not abandon your own self and rescue others in an effort to stay connected in relationship, or abandon your own self in favor of not being afraid of the change. What is the result is greater peace, greater joy, greater resilience, greater alignment. And it's only from that place of greater peace, joy, alignment, resilience, awareness, self-compassion, can you truly feel abundant in your life. So how do we do all of this? Because all of this sounds great. Gaining more agency, reframing your challenges, being more present, having more fulfilling relationships, not self-abandoning. How do we do this? I truly believe the answer is very simple, but it's not always easy. And the answer is a meditation practice. So why is meditation the most impactful thing you can do to create change in your life? Well, for starters, it's a pattern disruptor. Because as we stay on our autopilot of our life, on our unconscious living, on going, what's next, what's next, what's next, we never actually give ourselves the opportunity to slow down, to ask ourselves, what am I actually thinking right now? Are those thoughts in alignment with actually who I am at this moment in time and where I want to be in my life? We're not actually asking ourselves, what am I feeling right now? And what do I do with this emotion? How do I respond and give this emotion room to exist without allowing it to take over or getting stuck in it? What am I actually feeling in my body right now? What are the sensations? And how am I responding or reacting to these sensations in my body? And where is my curiosity as to how to relate differently to whatever these sensations are? As we stay on that unconscious living and autopilot of our life, we never actually slow down to say, am I where I want to be? Or am I here by default? When we don't slow down in our life, we stay disconnected. That momentum prevents us from truly getting to know ourselves in the here and now, taking stock of what's working and what's not, having the ability to just hold the space and be in awareness of whatever is arising without having to react to it. When we can slow down, even for just a few moments, we allow ourselves the possibility to allow what's arising to exist without judgment, to come into compassion for whatever we're experiencing in this present moment, to be able to check in with ourselves in a very honest way. And then to be able to decide, what do I want to do about it? Some of you may have heard of that very well-known quote by Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space, there's an ability to pause. And that pause is what gives us freedom. But we want to be able to create our moments of greater pause, because in that pause is our freedom. Why is it our freedom? Because without the pause, we are in reaction. Without the pause, we are in autopilot or on autopilot. Without the pause, we are stuck in old narratives, old patterns, old mindsets, looking through a negative lens. Ultimately, without the pause, we are disconnected from ourselves and we stay stuck in reactivity because we push away what we don't like. We try to ignore, deny, resist, and push away what is hard. And we tend to also want to grasp and cling and hold on to what we do like. But the truth is, life is going to ebb and flow. And when we feel greater ability to manage those curveballs, it's with the ability to pause and to not react and to consciously choose our response in each moment. That conscious choice is our agency. We can only gain the agency when we're out of reaction. Moments to pause give us freedom. Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our freedom. And when we can foundationally build a meditation practice, that's exactly what we're doing. We're giving ourselves moments to pause so we can respond and not react to every single little thing in our life that we tend to react right and left, ignore, deny, resist, stay on autopilot, continue to spiral in a negative pattern that we wish we could change. So even if there is one teeny little thing you would like to respond differently to in your life, and you've been trying, but you've been doing the same thing you've always done, and you've gotten the same thing you've always got, the key is to not try harder, but to try different. And I fundamentally believe that a meditation practice is the way to get there. Why? Because when we get to know ourselves, when we come back into our own body and out of our head and the narratives and the judgments and the reactions and the assumptions and the comparisons and the negativity bias and the inner critic being loud, and we let all of that settle, we have greater ability to come into self-compassion, greater ability to get to know ourselves. What am I actually feeling about this situation? What am I actually wanting to do next? What do I really need? Let me just pause and check in with myself, and then take a step forward, and then take action. That is where we gain agency, not from fast momentum of not knowing ourselves, but from slow, conscious, intentional awareness, having us know why we're doing what we're doing, aligned mind, body, and spirit and soul, checking in with ourselves. Think of it like this. Imagine a snow globe. And when you shake the snow globe and there's glitter or snow flying all over it, it can be kind of hard to see through it. That is what our life is like when we are on autopilot and when we're living in reactivity. It's like the snow globe is constantly being shaken. And yet, what we don't understand is we often have greater control over whether or not the snow globe is shaken or whether we allow it to settle. We are the ones in our own reactivity, in our narratives of saying, I hate this, why me, why this, why now, why others have it easier, why do all these challenges keep coming? Why is my partner doing X, Y, or Z? Why are my kids doing A, B, and C? Why me? All of those reactions are like continuing to shake the snow globe. And as long as there is glitter floating everywhere, that fuzziness allows for a lack of clarity. And without clarity, it's hard to feel good. It's hard to feel an alignment. It's hard to feel like we have an ability to make decisions. Otherwise, we react instead of respond. So meditation is a moment of pause, allowing the glitter to settle, allowing your frustrations, your stressors, your challenges to settle. When it settles, it gives you the ability to make a conscious choice and asking ourselves, okay, here's what's arising. What do I want to do about it? Easier said than done. That's why it's a practice. This is one of the things I pride myself in teaching others how to do in a way that is not only effective, but relatable and attainable and able to integrate into your daily life. Because so often, many people are afraid to slow down. They're afraid to say, what am I actually feeling? Who am I? Because there can be fear of, well, what do I do if I don't know, if I don't like what's coming up for me? Well, if you don't like what's coming up for you, then it's likely a good indication that where you're at is already out of alignment. So wouldn't you rather know that rather than have the next 10 years look like the past 10 years in which you felt disconnected and frustrated and overwhelmed? So even if it's temporarily hard to face what's here, it's actually the only way to get us where we want to be. So inviting yourself to have moments of pause is easier said than done. We got to build a muscle towards it. It doesn't have to be long for it to be effective. But if you are someone who has a desire to have greater agency in your life, if you're someone who has a greater desire to be able to reframe any challenge coming your way, if you're someone who has a desire to have more fulfilling and satisfying relationships, if you're someone who has a desire to have more joy, to feel more peace and calm, to feel more resilient, this is the solution. So there are so many different ways that you can go about starting. But I wanted to give you this whole broad picture of helping understand where you might be, because unless you have awareness of where you're at, you don't know awareness of what needs to change. And if this is something that you're wanting to do more of, I invite you to check out the links in the show notes where I've got masterclasses, my Journey Forward method, one-on-one work with me, because there is no time, like right now, this moment, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not next year. There is no time like this exact moment to begin to create the change that you are seeking to get you to where you want to be in your life. And if you set an intention and you miss the mark, well, guess what? The next moment is another opportunity for you to practice. There are 1,440 moments in each day, and every single one of those minutes is an opportunity to reset your intentions, to get off autopilot, to get present, so that you can have greater agency, have more fulfilling and satisfying relationships, most importantly, the relationship with yourself. So I hope that this episode has given you some inspiration and understanding of maybe patterns of where you're getting stuck and ways for you to start shifting out of them, because it is possible. I have upcoming masterclasses to support you in this. My Journey Forward method is my signature course, and I would love to support you on your journey. And if this episode spoke to you, it would mean so much to me if you gave it a rating, a review, if you shared it with those that you also thought might need these tools. I would be deeply grateful. So in the meantime, I invite you to take a moment to pause, breathe in and exhale out, and just start building the muscle. And if you want more support in the how, I've got your back. Check out the link in the show notes, and I invite you to join me in gaining more agency in your life so you can have the fulfilling and abundant life that I know is possible. I know it's possible. Thanks so much for tuning in today, you guys. I hope that you take care and be well.
To continue your journey forward, find Jory Rose on Facebook and Instagram to become part of her growing community. You can also gain access to her meditations, books, online classes, or to sign up for an upcoming retreat, visit her at joryrose.com. That's JOREEROSE.com.